Here at Helmuth Ford, we are a small town dealership with no hassle and no pressure.
All right. Welcome to this edition of Morgan Gas 4 podcast. About 9 o'clock here on Wednesday, February 5th. No school here for most of Southern Iowa, or at least early outs for a lot of school. We didn't have school here in Ottumwa. Late tomorrow, we've got some ice. We haven't had snow really yet. We did get a little bit of ice. I'll be honest, I haven't left the yard. I've been outside and stuff on the sidewalks and stuff, but my car didn't move today. So, yeah, I didn't notice it was too bad, but I guess it was bad enough for us not to have school and then late start tomorrow, which doesn't surprise me about the late start, but wish we'd have went to school this morning and got out about noon. I think it was okay till about then. And then I think the problem was it was about 3 o'clock or so when things started to happen, and that's about the worst time.
Yeah, that's normally right when school's getting out. Vince was saying in the chat that I think he had to park in his grass because he couldn't get to his truck up the drive.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he does. It's a little incline there.
And out here in Colorado today, I'm up in Fort Collins. It was about 62 degrees, so a little different than back home there for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this about every week. We can't complain. It's been nice. It's been really warm. It's been really cold. But overall, no snow. I haven't used my snowblower yet. I think we had one time where we might have got 2 inches of snow. That was it. But it is what it is. It is not over yet. We still have a full month. I never think anything about snow all the way through February. And then once you get into March, you might get a snow. And it might even be, several inches, but it's not going to last very long. If you can get through February, it's going to snow in March. You'll probably get a snow in April. Definitely it will snow. I shouldn't say you're not necessarily always going to stick in April. It might on the grass a little bit, but if we can get through the next 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, the snow probably won't last a long time.
Yeah, like you said, just got to get to March, and then it'll start warming up, and you'll have people trying to get on the golf course even when it's wet out. I know Sheely will be out there walking, even if it's a muddy mess.
A couple days ago, I think on social media, Matt put out the golf courses are closed because it was nice. It was 50-some degrees, sun was out, and honestly, that does a lot of damage to the course. Walking around the greens and stuff because they're still frozen. Then that's where you get to where you can see every step someone takes or a golf cart makes. It is hard on grass and stuff when you walk on it when it's frozen and then thawed, frozen, thawed.
Yeah, I'm not jealous of that weather right now. Like I said, it's nice here. It's gonna cool off, and it's gonna be good weather to stay inside for the Super Bowl, which is gonna be our main topic tonight. Yep. I know we're gonna go over. You got any big plans for the game?
No. The kids will be here. I think Laura and her kids are going to come. Nothing too much. It's just hard on a Sunday night with kids. We'll watch at least the first half. Tyler will be here, and then I'm gonna have to get him home. It's just he's getting old enough now where if the game's really close, and he's one of those. When he was about 4 or 5 years old, he loved Tom Brady. Well, now he loves Patrick Mahomes. He's one of those guys. But so he likes the Chiefs. So if the game's really close, he can stay till the game's over. I mean, he's old enough now. He can go to bed at whatever, and he'll be okay. But when the kids were younger and everything, and just with being divorced and getting kids back and forth, if I had the kids, it was just always kind of tough. But older now, so it'll be kind of depends on the game and what Tyler wants to do. But yeah, we'll just be here. Some food. Anybody wants to come on over. But nothing too big here. I'm going to have my parents' dog. My parents are going. Now, this is funny. So we've talked about how many times we've been to Florida and everything with my uncle and everything. They're actually going to Florida for 2.5 weeks now. That was actually scheduled well before going to Florida for, the months of October, November, and December. This was actually scheduled to get out of the weather for a couple weeks. So I'm going to have the dog starting Saturday or Sunday morning when they drop him off. So that makes it a little bit, not that he can't be here, but a little more difficult just to go do whatever you want when I'm not used to having a dog.
Yeah, you're gonna have a full house. Are you making any special food or anything?
I'll make chili. I'll make a cheese dip. Probably make some little smokies, and that's kind of my staples. Other than that, just whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be at home. I got to get on the road on Monday morning. Actually, heading to Vegas for a trip down there. So yeah, I'm not gonna get too wild. Like I told you before we got started, I got plenty of prop bets I'm going to have. A lot I haven't placed yet, but some I've got written down. So we'll kind of get into those as we go on. But let's get started with the game. I think it starts at 5:30
Yep.
for you guys. I have a time 4:30 for me, so that I'm okay with. Should get over at a decent time. That way we're not up late. At least we're not on the East Coast.
That's I don't know if anybody listens to Murph and Andy or two guys, the Iowa Everywhere people. They're really good. But Chris Hassel lives in Miami, or I think it's Delray Beach, but essentially Miami. And like when Iowa State played Arizona last Monday, a week ago, about 10 days ago now, it didn't start till 9 o'clock. Or when Iowa played UCLA and USC, started 8, 9, 10 o'clock. He goes, that game didn't start till 9 or 10:15 out there. So he goes, there's no chance for me to stay up. And so just being on the East Coast for watching sports, and with all these conferences going from coast to coast now, I mean, Big 12 has Central Florida, so it's Eastern time zone. West Virginia is Eastern time zone. It's hard, and you just have to be willing to stay up. And with all the services and everything you have to have, it's costly, and it's sometimes painful to your sleep habits.
Yeah, especially now that we're getting older. I even noticed too, I like to get to bed a little bit earlier time. So I still think Central and Mountain Time are by far the best for watching sports. I've lived in both. I've lived on the East Coast too. East and West are definitely the worst. East for sure is the worst in my opinion, but Central and Mountain are definitely the two best that you can have.
Yeah, like when you're out in the West Coast, which is, I'm just not there very often. When you're out in the West Coast, and I mean, essentially you're still working when all the games are going on. A 6 o'clock start here, 4 o'clock out there, you're still right in the middle of the workday. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot earlier. I mean, for the Super Bowl, for people out in California or just the West Coast and all, it's going to start at 3:30, which on a Sunday, that's no big deal. But during the week, you can have games starting at all sorts of times, 1, 2 in the afternoon. People are still in the office. So how much work actually gets done in a lot of these offices or workplaces when there's big games going on in the middle of the afternoon, who knows? And then, of course, as we know too, the Monday following the Super Bowl is always one of the most days of people missing work and calling in sick. So be interesting to see what those numbers are this year.
Yeah, there's getting to be a little bit more push on having something of moving the Super Bowl or having the day after off as a national holiday. Now, national holidays never include everybody. And there's on Murph and Andy today, they were talking, one guy wrote in, a holiday where workers don't have to work, but daycares are still open, schools are still open, so their kids have to go, but they could stay home. Now, this is one thing that, and I know it's not always the same and everything changes, but next week, the Monday after is President's Day. And that's always right around there. So if you just went one more week, which, I mean, obviously we love football, but it'd be starting to become really long, but you could just start it a week later. College football wouldn't argue that, because that'd be just one that would actually help some of college football's problem. I think we're going so long. Also, where you would have that built-in holiday the day after the Super Bowl, which would solve maybe some of those problems.
Yeah, that's what they're going to end up doing. The NFL is going to go to 18 games, 2 preseason games. They want to keep the 20-game schedule, so 18 and 2. They'll push it back to the President's Day week, and that's going to come here eventually during the next CBA.
Yeah, I mean, that's just where you don't have to make a holiday or really change a whole lot. Just build that in, and then so most people do have that day off the next day. We go to school, but it's okay.
Yeah, some people get off no matter what. Even if like you said, if you make it a national holiday, there's still plenty of people that have to work. I mean, hospitals, all sorts of different industries. People are still working even on those national holidays. So yeah, if they can move it back to that President's Day weekend, that would help some.
Yeah.
At least some people might get the day off.
Yeah. I mean, I think just it would help. And, again, just one of those, my kids are getting old enough now, but your 7, 8, 9-year-old that usually going to bed at 8, 9 o'clock. It would help them a lot where you could keep them up till 10 o'clock, but you wouldn't necessarily have to get them up first thing the next morning.
No, that's right. As we get into the game, I don't know if you had any keys to the game, if you had any opinions on it. I just had some stuff written down that I think is going to be important. Starting with Kansas City, I think it's important that they just don't have any turnovers, which they're pretty good at in these big games. The last 3 seasons, if the Chiefs win the turnover battle, or if they even tie the turnover battle with the other team, they're 34-1. And even when the Chiefs lose the turnover battle, they're 14-9 over the last 3 seasons.
Which is a really good record. You think 14-9, that's not great, but when you lose the turnover battle, that is really good because usually it's a guaranteed loss. And they did lose the turnover battle the other day, right? 1-0 to Buffalo.
That one I forget. I think Buffalo fumbled 5 times in that game and recovered all 5.
Yeah, so they didn't lose one. Yeah,
Mahomes,
I mean, I don't think they lost one.
Yeah, Mahomes did have that fumble that he lost. I think you're right. That 34-1. I'd have to go back. Well, they did lose it, so that's part of that 14-9. So yeah, you're right on that one. And that goes for the Eagles too. I mean, no turnovers. We talked about last week. No stupid penalties. I think it's another key. After the play type stuff. Don't have 12 men on the field. Illegal formations. That's all stuff you can control. If you get a holding or a pass interference, those are going to happen.
Yeah. Pre-snap, and it's, the tackles for Kansas City are notorious for being just a half a count early. And if it gets called, you can't argue against it, but it's really tough because they've done it all year and they're not always called for it.
No, it's real close. If you watch the Chiefs, those tackles, I mean, it's as close as it can get. So we'll see how the refs do in that. I don't know if Kelsey's going to have a big game or not, but look for Kelsey after the play to be talking smack to some of these guys and seeing if he can maybe get his team a little 15-yard penalty, a cheap one. Look for Kelsey in that aspect. I think another thing is Jalen Hurts versus the Kansas City pass rush. A couple things. Jalen has taken 11 sacks here in the playoffs. Now 7 came against the Rams, but he did have 2 each in the 2 other games. He is, he's notorious for running around. I think it'll be important that if he is going to scramble, don't take a big sack. For the Kansas City defense, don't over pursue. We see it a lot when the defensive end gets past the offensive lineman. They get upfield too quick. Quarterback steps up, makes a big pass play or run. I think that'll be something to keep an eye on. And then one thing for Jalen, when he gets pressured, he ranks 37 out of the 37 out of the eligible quarterbacks, so dead last in success rate, sack rate, and yards per attempt. Kansas City also is number 6 in pressures and quarters 2 through 4. So Jalen does have some struggles there, and he has 9 fumbles on the season. So we'll see how he does when it comes to that. The flip side, though, a stat that I saw, which I thought was interesting, when Mahomes gets rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds, he completes 83% of his passes this season and only has 3 picks. When the play goes over 2.5 seconds, he's only completing 55% of his passes and has 8 picks. So that's just something to keep an eye on. That stat surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, when it just shows when he's decisive, he has read the defense, and he knows what to do with the ball. He's unstoppable.
Yeah, and they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, so I'm guessing when they had those longer plays years ago when he was scrambling around, he could get away with it more, throw some jump balls. They don't exactly have that right now, so I thought that was an interesting one. And then to me, the biggest factor in this game is something that really no one's talking about. We know Reed, his experience, Spagnuolo, all these other coaches. Kellen Moore, the young offensive coordinator, it's only his 2nd year being an OC. And what I'm interested in is, does he get pass happy? Do they get down 10-0 in the second quarter, 13-3? And does he get away from the run? I mean, it sounds stupid to say it right now, but we see that with young offensive coordinators all the time. Barkley also has 77 plays this season of 0 or negative yards.
Okay.
So that he's probably going to have plenty of those versus the Chiefs. Yep. And again, does Kellen Moore abandon the run a little bit? I think one key for the Eagles is on the first series or the first 3 plays of each series, Saquon needs to touch the ball at least once.
Right.
I would say don't try to get too cute on the first or second series of the game. Try to do some big play action on first down, incomplete pass. Now you're in second and long, another incomplete pass, third and long. All of a sudden you're punting, and Saquon never touched the ball.
Right.
Saquon's got to touch this ball a lot. I mean, 22 to 24 times minimum is kind of what I think is a good number for them.
I'd like to see him touch